Championship, but did race in the UK when it came in 2001 at the European Touring Car meeting at Silverstone. Graham got there in the Anthony Reid Nissan, James's father. Derek Palmer there in the car that Laurent Aiello used in 1999, one of the two cars he used that year. And behind on the back BMW that used to be raced by
that chap Tim Harvey. Yes, that's the 1991 E30 BMW, the very first of the 2-litre cars. There it is. I won the final race in BTCC in 1991 at Silverstone in that car. And I mean, the progression of super touring cars, when you look at that BMW from 91 all the way through the 90s to the latter year cars that are going to be at the front of this grid, the progression is absolutely staggering.
It is. Now there's another ex-Harvey car, it's going down to Cascades.
Yeah, being driven by my teammate Patrick Watts. That was the car I raced in 98, 99. Patrick actually bought that car and the sister car that was driven by Paul Radicic. Owns both of them. Patrick never drove that car actually in those colours. He drove the total sponsored red and white Peugeot 406 in 1996. But he did race this car down under in New Zealand, and so he does know the car well, and is always very quick. But he had a problem in qualifying, and will be starting further back on the grid. So his progression through the pack will be interesting to watch.
Steve Sober's old BMW in the hands of Mark Smith goes down the pit lane, and at the very back of the grid, just caught a glimpse there, Stuart White, number 1 in the car that Tom Christensen raced in 2000 in the BTCC, in fact, who won the last race of Super Touring in the British Championship era, the light race at Silverstone back in 2000. There's a car that won here as well. That's Tom Christensen had already had one Le Mans victory and was a real star in touring cars, but spent too much time in the BTCC. There is the car. You notice as well they've got 2 numbers on the cars. Some do coincide, but where possible they've kept the period race number in the right font from the time, and then just like the BTCC cars have, there's a little yellow number which is the relevant one for this weekend. John Cleland and James Dodd share row 1. Neil Smith's Delectable Alfa Romeo and Graham Dodd's Nissan of row 2. Derek Palmer and Max Goff in the BMW M3, the 3rd row. Simon Garrett is on row 4 with his Renault alongside Keith Butcher. Alvin Powell comes next alongside Patrick Watts, and then clothing boss Dan Wheeler is on the 6th row alongside Dave Jarman, who's one of the 2 prime movers along with Johnny Westbrook of this category. Nick Whale, another period racer, is on row 7 with his old Tech-Speed BMW. Kingsley Eagles Mazda, the car that didn't race in period, comes next ahead of Mark Jones, and then Mark Wright's recreation of Klaas Ludwig Zack Speed Mark II Escort. Darren Fielding's BMW and Tom Andrews' Alfa Romeo 155, rebuilt after a crash yesterday. Steve Dimmock's Alfa 156 is a Super 2000 car. Rick Wood's Honda is the El Gabriele Tarquini chassis. Tony Absalom drives the old Anthony Reid and then Mid Motorsport Cavalier ahead of Mark Smith, masquerading as Steve Soper, and Stuart White's Honda Accord is at the back of the grid.
Sadly, no Paul Smith in his beautiful Castrol livery BMW, because it sadly threw a rod out the side of the engine, or the bottom of the engine in qualifying, and that's the danger with these old cars. Getting them repaired is no easy thing, but he actually showed me the conrod. It was the lightest, most beautifully made Pankel conrod, but of course they're all aged now, you know, they're quite old, and failures will happen, but not easy to get those things repaired. And you can even see, look at the ride height of that E30 Steve Soper car, look how high it is. And then you look at the Tom Christensen car from 2000 behind it, how low slung it is. Completely different principle.
The fascination in the grid building over the last couple of years is where all these cars have been found. Many of them have gone off into places like Serbia and the Czech Republic and been used in hill climbs, and they are now being found in random garages and barns in very old places, and coming back to the UK. It's this part of the world really where the Renaissance is coming, but gradually 1 or 2 more mainland Europe drivers are having a look at super touring, and so I hope the category continues to build. They come to the grid, ready for the rolling start. The cars will have a 20-minute race, and it's timed rather than a set number of laps. The checker flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line once. 20 minutes are up, and something I haven't had to say for a long, long time. John Cleland on pole position is
yes,
the story of Oulton Park.
The real John Cleland as well. Not only is it his car, it is him driving. One thing the driver's going to struggle with is the fact that because they have wet qualifying, they're virtually all on brand new slicks. So they haven't had time to bed those slicks in. They've just had one little warm-up lap. They're going to get one formation lap now and then the rolling start. So the front-wheel drive cars will have to be just a little bit ginger at the start. There would be an advantage for the rear-wheel drive cars in the first few laps.
So in a moment the cars are going to be released. You can just get a glimpse in that shot of one of the earlier Cavaliers as well. Mark Jones, who's got a Renault Laguna here, one of Jason Plato's cars, has elected not to race that. Could have put Jason in it, couldn't he? But he's gone for the Jeff Allen Cavalier instead, one of the RML cars, and that is a quick car. Mark Jones, in fact, did have a very, very brief spell in the BTCC a few years ago, but these days he's very quick in a Lotus Cortina in pre-66 historic touring car races. So, rolling start, the lap gets underway. Gosh, it takes you back this, doesn't it, as the cars work their way down towards Oulton Park.
It's going to be very hard not to start calling the cars by their period drivers, isn't it?
I'm going to do it, I know it.
Exactly. And that Renault, when I first saw that Renault, the Nescafe Renault Laguna this morning, I hadn't seen that car on track previously, and it just completely took me straight back to the late 90s. I was amazed to see that. We have had two races in this championship already, both at Thruxton. First one won by Patrick Watts, and the second one won by John Cleland. So in the championship, Watts leads Cleland.
It's a nice victory, isn't it?
15 points to 13. Patrick Watts there's got some work to do in this race to get through.
Indeed, so James Dodd was somebody in mechanical woes at Thruxton, and as I was saying earlier, he was a very, very quick driver and always excels around Oulton Park. The Gold Cup meeting, which is now the historic cars. A few years ago, 3 seasons ago, and no matter what he came out, he kept on winning. And his father, Graham Dodd, who was a modified sports car champion in the 1970s, returned to racing about a decade ago. He built up his business and raised a family. Graham is very quick and versatile as well. Whatever you put him into, he goes well. So both the Dodds are going to be well worth watching. And Neil Smith, Alfa Romeo preparation man with the 156, should be up there as well. As I say, it's not a car that ever did anything in the BTCC. It was really only Alfa 155s that were the cars to watch there. But there is a 155 on the grid. Tom Andrew, local man, in the 155 that had a big off yesterday. Alfa Romeo came to the BTCC in 1994, the year that Gabriele Tarquini won the championship. Straight away, people complained about the rear wings that the cars ran. And it was here that it all came to a head. And Alan Gow said to the team manager, Nini Rosso, you can't run with that rear wing. And Nini Rosso said, well, if you won't let us run with that wing, we'll go home. And Alan Gow said, right, I'll open the gate for you. And called his bluff, and the Alphas went home. And from that weekend, for a few days, TOCA was referred to as standing for Turf Out Controversial Alphas. But they came back and they won the championship, thanks to Gabriele. And he, of course, stayed in the championship and carried on winning for Honda a few seasons later. But there it is, the 155 in the background, coming into shot. It did not look pretty, that car, yesterday, but they've done a lot of work on it. And it's a car that was raced in the Italian Championship by Antonio Tamburini, but it's in British livery.
I seem to remember those cars had a habit of tipping up and rolling over very easily.
There was a famous 2-winning moment at Donington and a big barrel roll for Gabriele at Knock Hill.
Yes.
Quite right. And I'm sure Tim has spotted this, but Alfa Romeo students will notice that there it is, the 155. Although it's a 1994 car, it's running 95 aero.
I'm sure they will have spotted that, and the fact that you're so knowledgeable about Alfa Romeos in particular will not have gone amiss either. So the grid is forming up, Cleland is leading them through, rolling start as they come through. On his left is James Dodd, very, very quick driver indeed. His father, Graham, behind him on the outside of row 2 in the Primera, and being led round very gently by John Cleland. This could be a clever tactic as they go over the wet part of the track, just to sort of spook his rivals out. Maybe John thinks he's quicker on the cold tyres than his less experienced rivals. He may be in for a shot, who knows?
Well, he's not lost any guile over the years, has he, JC? So up they come out of Dearly, and a snapshot of how touring car racing was in the 1990s is about to get underway. 20 minutes of racing at Oulton Park. He's go, and John Cleland it is who gets the drop on the opposition, heading down towards Old Hall Corner. With up the inside, Neil Smith in the Alfa Romeo as he dives up into second place on the inside. Then it's Cleland ahead of Smith, ahead of Dodd, and Max Goff has got a good start. He goes 5th in the BMW.
Very brave by Neil Smith there on lap 1 into Old Hall. He was straight up the inside of James Dodd. Look at Patrick Watts, he's looking for a way through up the inside of Cascades, but Cleland has made the getaway at the start.
James Dodd is up to second though, he's got back ahead through Cascades. Neil Smith drops to third, and then Dodd Senior, Graham Dodd in the Nissan is in fourth, Max Goff fifth, and side by side for sixth, Derek Palmer up alongside Simon Garrett, who will have the inside line in the Renault going into Shan Oil's corner. Has he got the pace? Yes, he has. Garrett up the inside, and Patrick Watts tries to buy into this now.
Yeah, Patrick trying to make quick progress towards the front. That Renault Laguna, in fact, that's the car that's driven by Jean-Christophe Fouillon in the British Touring Car Championship.
Race leaders come over Hilltop then for the first time, and as they work their way down towards his lot, look at this, the top two gapping everybody else. Neil Smith third, falling away a little bit as he keeps Graham Dodd at bay. Max Goff is under attack though, because Simon Garrett is right with him, and then it's Derek Palmer and Patrick Watts next in the queue.
I think that was actually Max Goff getting past Simon Garrett. He did a real lunge under the brakes. Well, that car did have ABS in its day, and if it's still got it now, then it'll be using it to the maximum.
But John Cleland cannot shake off James Dodd, can he? Look how much better Druids is. They tiptoe their way through. Hopefully they tiptoe their way through, and nobody comes to grief. It still looks immaculate, that car, doesn't it?
It is. It's very original. And as I said, this at this part of the track, you know, the rear-wheel drive cars, perhaps with a bit of heat in their slicks, will go very well.
Graham Dodd for third on the inside, then the Nissan. The ex-Anthony Reid car dives through up on the inside line as they work their way to the end of lap number 1 of 20 minutes of racing. And so this for a while. John Cleland leads then as he crosses the line. He's got James Dodd right up behind him, and look at this, what a sign for third place.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Neil Smith, because remember, Neil Smith was in second, wasn't he? So he dropped down somewhere to fourth. We missed that, and it's very much James Dodd taking the fight to John Cleland at the moment.
Yeah, Smith lost second place here, didn't he, on the first lap, and then Dodd just did him at Lodge Corner, Dodd Senior, so now he's got to go defensive. Of course, all of this is so that other people can admire the Alfa as they come up to pass it, you see. You're trying to get back on the inside of Graham Dodd to no avail or none. Simon Garrett has to go on the inside, that's brave.
Wow, that's very brave on the inside there of Island Bed. You don't want to be, you need some cooperation from the other driver. Max Goff round the outside. Not sure if this will come off, but he'll have good traction off the corner. This is great, respectful driving by these guys.
James Dodd is not yet attacking John Cleland, but he's laying lots of pressure on him. Neil Smith, I'm afraid, is dropping back through the pack here, and he's going to have Derek Palmer for company in a moment. So John Cleland leads the way, but James Dodd, I just get the feeling, might be biding his time here.
Yeah, well, I mean, John is going to have to stay off the curbs here. He's already broken the car once, so if you watch, he'll be very careful. But then, obviously, you know, these cars are fragile. Look at the power of that Honda up the hill. Definitely looks to have a bit more engine power, doesn't it?
Absolutely right, and whatever John does, James Dodd won't go away. For third place, though, Simon Garrett is a man on a mission. He was sixth at the start of the lap, and now he's fourth, and he could be third on the next shot because he was teamed up to have a go against Graham Dodd as they work their way through Druids. He hasn't got past Graham Dodd. Now, these two have raced against each other in all sorts of things over the years. They've shared cars in races, and one year they tied on points and were jointly awarded the HSCC's touring car title. But there is the, oh dear, Steve Sober BMW. Let's come to that. Mark Smith. It was smoky in qualifying. It's smoky again. And if he's dropping oil down, that's going to go down like a rattlesnake.
Yeah, well, you know, when you see blue smoke from the back of your car, whoa, down the inside, is that going to come off? I think it will. Oh, and Cleland under having to defend as well into Cascades. Great action. This is so reminiscent, isn't it, of the period. Great racing. James Dodd, I think he had a drive shaft failure at Truxton in one of the races that cost him a win. That's been repaired, but yes, he's biding his time as well. But so reminiscent of the period, this racing.
No drama there in the Matt Neal car, making his way down to Island Bend as Cleland and James Dodd filling his mirrors, continue to squabble. That, I'm afraid, is the demise of Mark Smith. Again, in one of the early BMW M3s, the Steve Soper car, they push out of harm's way. Now, Simon Garrett did the fastest lap of the race last time. There he is in the Renault, ahead of Max Goff, who in turn has now got charging Derek Palmer Jr. behind him. Slippery surface black now. His lot, John Cleland arrives on scene first, with James Dodd absolutely glued to his tail, and they tiptoed their way through a very slippery part of the circuit.
You could see the cars twitching around, and they were going very slowly there. So clearly a substantial amount of oil went down, and I think that the ex-Supercar did pull off there, so hopefully the rest of the track will be clear.
I think you're right about that. This is Druids, and look at what's going on for third, because not only is Graham Dodd now being caught by Simon Garrett, but they're lapping a little bit quicker than the leader, so the gap's coming down. James Dodd may have his dad for company before much longer, so John Clallan leads the way, but he just can't escape at the moment.
No, I think you're right. I think Dad Dodd, if you like, Graham Dodd is actually running quicker at the moment. Look, Graham Dodd is catching James Dodd and John Clallan.
Yeah, well, John will say, well, I just wanted to make a race of it all, but yes, at the moment, you can't get away from James, can he, as he comes into Oulton Corner.
Trust me, the one thing I know about John Clallan is he will definitely have an answer.
Oh, yes. He has lost none of his velocity over the years, but he's still a very, very good competitor, John. Double BTCC champion, of course, and twitches his way out of Cascades with James Dodd and then Graham Dodd third. Now, the other man to watch, about to come into shot there, Derek Palmer, has done the fastest lap of the race. That's one of the two cars that Lars Aiello drove in 1999. In fact, that ended its season up against the pit wall at Donington. That is a car that never raced in period. The Mazda 323 was built for Slim Borgren, the former F1 racer and ABBA drummer. Kingsley Ingram has it. He's attacking Nick Whale in the car that he raced in period, and they almost get themselves together at Cascades.
Yeah, Nick's absolutely loving driving that car, but he's made the mistake of letting his son Harry drive it, and Harry loves it even more. I know what tends to happen here, that Harry will end up taking over the car.
Yes.
That's actually fitted with a 2.5 litre engine now, that car. Would have raced in period with a 2 litre engine. Right.
That was a Group A car, and he's lost the pace. And now look at this for the race lead. It is 3. Simon Garrett has not stayed with Graham Dodd, but John Clallan is under huge attack from the family now. James Dodd comes up to challenge, heading up Clay Hill. Can he get alongside and challenge going into Druids?
Well, this is brave. They're coming up to the damp part of the track, and James will be on that damp part. You can see it there. He's going to have wet tyres now. Turning into Druids, Clallan tucks into line. Very brave, very good driving by James. I think he saw Dad coming with the big stick and he had to get a move on.
And Graham fancies his chances of getting past John Clallan as well. Wouldn't it be fascinating to see James Dodd in the modern BTCC? For now, though, Clallan is keeping Dodd Senior at bay, and James Dodd, I think, is going to escape here.
Yeah, but you were right about Palmer. His fastest lap was actually 3 seconds quicker, but immediately James Dodd strikes back. He got the fastest lap, only for that to take it off him again. So Graham Dodd is still the quickest guy on the track.
Well, there's the leader, James Dodd, up front then. John Clallan is second, just ahead of Graham Dodd. Simon Garrett fourth in the Renault. Derek Palmer fifth, and Max Goff doing a really good job in the BMW in 6th spot. Neil Smith is down to 7th in the Alfa Romeo 156 now, ahead of Keith Butcher's Nissan, Alvin Powell's Mondeo, the ex-Anthony Reid car, and then Dave Jarman's Matt Neal Nissan rounds out the top 10. From the back of the grid, Stuart White is 11th in the ex-Tom Christensen Honda, but now James Dodd in the ex-James Thompson car getting away, as there Steve Dimmock in the Super 2000 156 had to go on the inside of Darren Fielding, coming down to Lodge Corner. Much later Alfa Romeo, up the inside, and behind is the ex-Jamie Wall, Ashley Reed Mid-Motorsports Cavalier. Came out of the Japanese Championship and came to the BTCC after that.
The man who hasn't made progress we expected was Patrick Watts, and he's still down in 12th place and not lapping particularly quickly. So if Patrick hasn't made the progress we expected, I'm sure, like John Clallan, he'll have plenty of reasons for that as well. But just loving driving the car and tinkering with it, and just enjoying their hobby.
Steve Dimmock to the inside of Rick Wood, who's a bit of an Oulton Park expert. Rick Wood, he's an engine builder and has raced a great variety of cars around here. And Patrick Watts is on the grass, coming through his lots. I think Stuart White may well have muscled away past him as he has. And Patrick runs out the road.
Well, Patrick Watts is on the grass is a quote directly from Period.
I was just teeing it up with the say that, yes. Plus ça change. So, Patrick Watts has a little moment. Now, Dave Jarman's coming up for attack, isn't he? Still Druids is so wet, in complete contrast to the rest of the lap. And ahead of this gang, Alvin Powell's Mondeo, or one of his many Mondeos in fairness, the ex-Anthony Reid car. And Stuart White tries to get past Dave Jarman there, coming down towards Lodge Corner, and Patrick Watts buys back into it and gets ahead of the Honda. That was good opportunistic stuff.
That was very good. He had lost none of his racecraft, Patrick, and he knew the track was drier there on the inside, and he'd get better grip and better traction coming off him.
So John Clallan in second place, falling away now from James Dodd, but keeping Dad Dodd at bay, so Graham is there in third spot. And Dave Jarman tries to get back ahead of Patrick Watts, who's just slipped up past him, but can't do so. Now he's got to try and keep Stuart White at bay. Oh, and Alvin Powell there, leaning on Keith Butcher. And that puts now the Mondeo ahead of the Nissan. It's a little bit more physical this than I anticipated it to be.
Well, yeah, actually, I took part in one of the races here last year. I took part in the Gold Cup meeting on the Monday after Knock Hill and drove my old RS 500, and there was a lot of talk then about driving standards, but I think driving standards have been excellent.
Dan Wheeler, I'm afraid, who's never raced here before, has come into the pit lane in his ex-Anthony Reid Nissan, a 97 car that he has never raced before, and by the look of it, he might have had an off somewhere, so let's hope that car's going to be good for the race tomorrow. Dan currently is the man to beat in Mini Melia racing, also very quick in historic minis, but now turning his attention to super touring cars as the leaders work their way down towards Lodge. Now let's have a look at what was going on over at Britain's. Patrick Watts is in the thick of this by the look of it, and locking up is Keith Butcher, who finds the water splash and hopefully avoids everybody. One or two have to take a evasive action there.
Yeah, but definitely filled up the radiators with mud and grass, so he'll need to clear those out, or he'll have a very expensive overheated engine under the bonnet. But good driving by Alvin Powell. He loves these Mondeos, and he's driving very well.
He has a number of the later cars. He's also got the 93 Saloon Mondeo that Paul Radicic won the Monza Touring Car World Cup in from that year. As Tony Absalom's Cavalier goes through his lots ahead of Darren Fielding. There is Alvin Powell, still coming under attack. He's running in 8th place and he's way wide at Old Hall Corner, and that's done the rear balance no good.
Yes, that's definitely exceeding track limits, and Patrick Watts is next around the corner to try and take advantage. Still love seeing that ex-Matt Neal car. I was working as sort of driver liaison for Matt when he won that famous 250,000. Here's a replay of Alvin getting this corner wrong again. Old Hall comes in, carries too much speed, gets out wide, very stiffly sprung these cars, and as he bounces over the rough grass, it just pulls the rear bumper off. But yeah, Matt Neal's old car, driven by Dave Jarman, just looks absolutely fantastic. I keep thinking it should have the yellow Velcro piece on the side, but which used to be pulled off at the pit stop, the compulsory pit stop.
John Turland out of Druids in second place. Now he's certainly shaken off Graham Dodd all of a sudden, hasn't he? The gap was 9 tenths. I think Graham may have had a drama on this gap. He's fallen away, and he's almost in the clutches now of Simon Garrett, who in turn is being reeled in by Derek Palmer. He's number 23, is a real 23, coming out of Lodge. Of course, all the Works Nissans ran 23 as their number in period. Over the timing line, James Dodd, fastest lap of the race, he's 3 seconds clear of John Clalland. Graham Dodd third, Simon Garrett fourth, Derek Palmer is fifth. Graham Dodd still pressing on. The gap to Simon Garrett is 9 tenths of a second now. Down towards Lodge Corner comes Alvin Powell's now on the Backenscar Mondeo. It has Alain Manu's name on the window. It's not a Manu car, but Alain came to have a look at it yesterday, and Alvin Powell was more than happy to let Alain sit in it, and photographs were taken. It was one for the scramble. Over the timing line comes Alvin Powell, the Welshman keeping at bay Dave Jarman, who, along with Johnny Westbrook, has done so much to make this category the success it is now. The car's on track, and these two scrolling 10th and 11th with only 6 more minutes of the race to go.
Yeah, there's a similar story with Steve Dibbock's Alfa Romeo, because he had Fabrizio Giovanardi come and have a look at it yesterday, and he wasn't sure whether it was Giovanardi's car or not, but Giovanardi took one look at the pedal box and said, yes, that's my car, because I had a different pedal box in the car, because I right foot braked and all the other drivers left foot braked, so he was able to confirm it to a very happy Steve.
You probably found the value went up at 1,000 yes. Now, the Dodd-Garrett battle is building up nicely. This is Graham Dodd in the Nissan, just ahead of Jean-Christophe Bouillon, masquerading as Simon Garrett, and then Derek Palmer is in 5th place. They head up towards Druids. Every shot you get takes you back, but this is fantastic, isn't it? You see Nissan and the Renault getting themselves together. They're driven properly as well, driven hard, these cars. Down to Lodge Corner, 5 more minutes remain. And while James Dodd is pulling away up front to give the championship a third different winner in 3 races potentially, Graham Dodd is under attack. Simon Garrett in that Renault has really got onto his tail.
Yes, where did Simon, he's got 2 of these Renaults. I'm not sure where he found them actually. Do you know where he found them?
This one came from, I think you told me, Montenegro.
Right. That's the obvious place where you'd find an ex-HSCC Renault Laguna.
Most of them are coming Montenegro or Belgrade. Belgrade, his car was found yesterday.
Yeah,
done it.
And also Graham had on his tyres, that will slow him down a little bit, or at least make him question his entry speed here into the island bend.
So Derek Palmer may well be able to attack now. Derek Palmer in the second of those Nissans with the windscreen strip celebrating Lawrence Aiello's championship success. Meantime, James Dodd pulling away from John Callants, worked his way through Britons. Simon Garrett now in third spot. Now what can he do about Callum? He's too far back, I think, before the end of the race. But Derek Palmer for fourth is a real possibility. Down they come. Almost side by side, the Nissans. Derek Palmer had a look, but then thought better of it.
Meanwhile, Stuart White, number one in his Honda, who was fighting his way back up the order from back of the grid, has got himself all the way up to 8th place. That's car number one, and he set the fastest lap of the race, quicker even than James Dodd.
Meantime, Rick Wood keeps Tony Absalom at bay, coming out of Lodge Corner, heading up towards Deer League. And over the timing line they go with just under 3.5 minutes of the race remaining now. Working their way through Old Hall. Stuart White pressing on, he's closing on Matt Scott. And in fact, as the race has worn on, so Neil Smith has got himself back up the order into the top six again. The 156 Alvin Powell ahead of Dave Jarman here. And then the recovering Keith Butcher after his rally crossing moment at Britons heads up towards Druids. This little battle still 10th, 11th and 12th as the cars work their way up towards the right-hander. And Graham Dodd loses it coming out of Old Hall. Back in the right direction, finds a gear, carries on, but of course he's lost the place now to Derek Palmer.
Yeah, that's a shame. He was having a great race, Graham was. From the early laps where he was pushing his son, he's got grass in the splitter. Here we are. He was under attack. Is there contact? No, I think Graham just gets out onto the outside of the track with a little bit less grip on it and spins around. Fortunately, without contact with any other cars or the barrier. I'm amazed that front was still that active.
But again, you see, that takes you back because you used to see cars with rear damage like that, dragging the remains round to the checkered flag. Peter Riches, who is still the technical manager of the championship, used to be on his toes with a black and orange flag if needs be, but for the moment it is Alvin Powell hanging onto the place, and the rear balance just about hanging onto the back of the car. Rick Wood in the meantime fending off former Volkswagen racer Tony Absalom. Darren Fielding is next, and they're in danger of being lapped, aren't they now, because James Dodd, with now less than a lap time left in the race, so he'll start his last lap this time, comes down towards Lodge Corner. I did say before the race started that he's a bit of a star in historics, and he's rather proved the point. This has been a very impressive drive.
A very impressive drive. I mean, James was winning last year in the Nissan Primera that his father was driving, but then when they got the Honda, youth overtook old age, and James acquired the driver's seat to it.
And they've got a number of these Hondas. They've got a Peter Cox car as well. But it's the Tomo car that's been pressed into service this weekend. It's a very good effect for the Foxtec-built cars. Up the inside he goes for a lap on Tony Absalom in the Mint Motorsport Cavalier that Anthony Reid raced in Japan and then came into racing in this country. Jamie Wall drove it.
Yeah, there are lots of different Hondas. They were all built by different people. You've got the ProDrive built cars, you've got the Yaz Motorsport built cars, N Technology. There's all sorts of different cars built by different people. They look similar, but very different.
So on this, the last lap of the race, James Dodd working his way up towards Britain. John Clallan still threading his way through traffic as well. The first of the 888 built Vectras, and then Simon Garrett is going to be good for the podium as the Alfa Romeo 155 with its red sticky tape to repair yesterday's damage. Again, at one of the earlier cars of the Super Touring era, worked its way up towards Knickerbrook, and Tom Andrew, former Morgan GT racer, is about to be lapped by James Dodd.
With a significant amount more power, it must be said. I mean, the latter year Super Touring cars probably had 30 horsepower more than the early cars.
So Druids for the final time. A mighty impressive effort this has been by James Dodd. He works his way down towards Lodge Corner. think it's fair to say these cars have been a hit this afternoon. It's been a good race.
Been great fun. The crowd, everyone watching this race, watching the cars, bringing back memories. Great to have them on the support bill for the BTCC meeting.
James Dobb takes victory at Oulton Park. Yet another winner's trophy at Oulton for him, this time in a super touring Honda Accord. John Cullen comes home second, and for third it is going to be Simon Garrett in the Renault. For fourth place, Derek Palmer will come across the line, and Graham Donner, after his spin, falls to fifth. But Stuart White got himself into the top six on that penultimate lap. Can he stay there? He should be able to. Patrick Watts up to seventh as Neil Smith fell down the order a little bit. There are still battles to be resolved. Alvin Powell is trying to keep at bay Keith Butcher, despite the rear balance hanging on my friend.
I always remember the team managers would be rushing up to the car saying, no, it won't fall off, no need to black flag, it'll be fine, no worries, it's got safety on it, don't worry.
Nothing changes either. Out of Dilly comes Alvin Powell. Blue sticky tape at the ready to get the car back as new for tomorrow. Over the line he comes in the end. Dave Jarman got ahead of him, and Alvin Powell fell away a little bit. So Patrick Watts was seventh behind Stuart White. Neil Smith eighth. Backstop ninth. Dave Jarman 10th. Alvin Powell here 11th, and Keith Butcher behind me 12th. And that's the reception for the marshals and the medical team trackside. Many of you will remember these cars first time around. And great fun it has been. A good race. That's some proper driving. And James Dodd underlining why he is so much talked about I still find it wrong to call these historic cars, but you know what I mean. Earlier generation race cars, shall we call them that? But some of them, 20 years old, time has gone very quickly. So James Dodd, a race winner, and admits that his first introduction to super touring was playing the Toga game on his PlayStation. And he used to enjoy that, so the chance to race one of these cars is excellent. And apparently he used to choose the Renault Laguna, not a Honda. But now they've got one, or two. He thinks this is the car he should drive. And each car you see brings back more memories, doesn't it?
It does, and obviously for me, having raced throughout that period, massive memories of a very good time of racing. Recreated excellently here, and here's the result.
James Dodd wins the first of two Historic Sports Car Club Super Touring races of the weekend from John Cullen and Simon Garrett. Derek Palmer comes home fourth ahead of Graham Dodd, and then Stuart White sixth from the back of the grid. Patrick Watts seventh ahead of Neil Smith, Max Goff, David Jarman to round out the top 10. 11th, Alvin Powell, now rather dog-eared Mondeo ahead of Keith Butcher. Mark Wright's recreation of Klaus Ludwig's Escort is actually car 13th, keeps Ingram 14th in the Mazda game, nicely ahead of Nick Whale and Steve Dimmock. Rick Wood 17th ahead of Tom Andrew, Darren Fielding, and Tony Absalom's Cavalier 20th. Dan Wheeler we saw in the pits, Mark Jones in his Cavalier, not the Renault today, and Mark Smith's BMW again in problems. So Oulton Park has, for the moment, said goodbye to touring cars, because we will have the second of the Super Touring races, and of course 3 races for the Dunlop MSA British Touring Car Championship. But it has been not only a great Super Touring race, but just a final word, Tim, about qualifying, because that's given us a great grid for tomorrow's first race for the BTCC.
Yeah, looking fantastic, a great grid, some action from looking all the way through.